Hey y'all, so this is the stuff that I use to do my brows. I'm using an angle brush, a spoolie, a flat concealer brush, and a fluffy concealer brush. I'm going to be using NYX Tame and Frame brow pomade in Espresso. I'm going to be using concealer from LA Girl, of course, in creamy beige and in fawn. Then I'm going to be using a dark brown eyeshadow. I'm using the one that's in the second row, the last one. This is from the Tart and Bloom palette. You don't have to use something that's expensive. Find a cheap dark brown eyeshadow and you'll be just fine. Okay, so to start, of course, I'm brushing my brows. I don't get them done, so I really need to do this because they like super wild and just not right. So I'm taking the NYX Tame and Frame, and I'm just starting in the middle of my brow with short strokes, just applying the products. So then I'm going to eventually start to kind of form the shape that I want. I don't want any type of arch in my brow, really. I just want them kind of straight. So what I do is I kind of make I just flow in like straight lines basically, and I'm just working in short strokes. As you can see, for the top of my brow, I don't draw the line all the way. I kind of just stop at a not natural point. I kind of go 3/4 of my brow, if that makes sense. Like the very front, I don't draw the line at the top, if that makes sense. I hope so. So for the bottom, I'm doing the same thing, kind of just creating the line down there. Again, I don't want to arch, so I kind of just work in straight lines. I like straight brows. That's just personally my preference, and that's kind of how my brows grow naturally anyway. So yeah, I'm just flicking the product with short strokes mostly. I think that comes in handy when you're doing your brows. Just use short strokes. And I'm applying kind of a lot of products because I'm going to brush it with the spoolie. So if you're applying a lot of products, it's fine. Once you brush it with the spoolie, it should kind of just disperse. And it's kind of just, I just let it like take all the product like that it can to the front basically. And so now I'm going to start to draw the line at the top to kind of connect the bottom, so that my brow doesn't look like it's floating. You can't really not draw the bottom line of your brow because it kind of just looks weird or whatever. So now I'm going to start flicking the brow hairs at the front, because of course that looks natural. And as you can see, like I didn't just like flick brows right at the very front because that would kind of look unnatural. I kind of start a little further back than right at the front, because if I did that, you could distinctly, like it would be like an indentation of like where I started to flick the brows up, and you could tell like, oh, like that doesn't look natural. So I kind of just flick it a little further back than right at the front, so it kind of is a gradual change in like the strokes of the brush, if that makes sense. I hope so. If it doesn't, y'all know, y'all can comment. So now I'm just taking the concealer in creamy beige at the bottom. I do the lightest one at the bottom, and for the top I'm going to mix fawn and creamy beige because I don't want it to be that light. And I'm just taking that with this flat concealer brush. I think this is from Luxie, a brand called Luxie. I think this is like a 201 brush or something. But I'm going to blend that out with the concealer brush. That's fluffy, and I got that from the beauty spot store for $1. So super cheap. If you let the concealer dry a little bit, especially LA Girl concealer, because it is full coverage but it's very liquidy, and it doesn't, because it's real liquidy, it doesn't like necessarily cover up the sparse hairs as good as it could. So if you kind of let it dry a little bit and you kind of like do long pulling strokes with it, it kind of builds up a better coverage because it's a little dry, and it can cover those sparse hairs if you don't get your eyebrows done or if you're in between appointments. So for the front of my brow, I do not take the concealer all the way to the front initially. I just kind of let it go to the front as I'm blending it out, just for a more natural look. So now what I'm doing is I'm taking the dark brown eyeshadow because I want my brows to be super dark, like as dark brown as it can before it hits black basically. So that's just what I'm doing now. I'm just brushing this through my brows to create just a darker brow. And I'm going over the bottom line and the top line again very, very carefully so that I'm not messing up what I just cleaned up. And this is really the only thing that's super different from my the brow routine that I have up right now, other than like I think my brows look better now just because I just always have struggled with my brows, and I just really honestly got them right like super right this summer, really, because I always have struggled with my brows like so bad. But this is what it looks like when I'm finished with one brow. And you can kind of like see from the other brow, like it's a big dramatic difference. But I freaking love how my brows look now. So I'm doing the same steps again. I won't really talk as much for this brow. I'll just point out some stuff that I think may have been harder to see on the other brow. So this is like how much product I apply before I start to brush, if that is going to help you out a little bit. I did want to state that the other brow, the first brow I did, is my problem brow. So this brow I kind of move a little faster with. And then also this method I feel like will work for a lot of people. I pretty much do this technique when I'm doing anybody's eyebrows, and it always comes out nice to me. So if you're really struggling with your brows and you're kind of looking for a new method, I would try this method. Not saying that I'm cold and I'm just creating methods out here, but I'm just saying like this may be easier. So you can kind of see the difference before I clean it up and before I apply the dark concealer. And so this is what I mean by like pulling the concealer. Just apply a little bit to your brush and just keep like pulling it out. And it just kind of dries it up, and just let it sit there for a little bit. As you can see, it's not as fluid as LA Girl usually is, and that's because I just applied a little bit to the brush and I'm just pulling it so that it can dry out and like thin out, kind of, if that makes sense. And also for the top brow, you don't necessarily have to mix the two concealers. Like this may still be too light from some people. You could either not clean up the top of your brows at all for a more natural look, or you can use your foundation or a concealer that matches your skin tone, so it also kind of still looks natural. But I kind of go over this with foundation anyway. And so that's what it looks like before I apply the dark eyeshadow. And so sometimes when I apply the dark eyeshadow, I can kind of press down too hard with my brush and kind of create it just like an indentation. So you can just take your spoolie and kind of brush it out a little bit. You do want to kind of apply light pressure when you're doing your brows. You don't want to press too hard down, because then it creates a kind of just too harsh kind of, and kind of just too, this like line of indentations kind of. Okay, y'all, and this is it. That's how I do my brows. And because I don't get them done, they're always going to be sisters and not twins. So, but I hope you guys enjoy, and don't forget to comment if you have any questions.